Alright, everybody, it's another day. It's another Daily Duos, and we're watching Chico and Trulex. And I gotta apologize. I don't know if it's Chico. I've heard it said many different times. Nonetheless, Chico, Trulex, that's what I'm gonna go with this time. If I'm wrong, let me know in the comments. I don't know how you're gonna explain how it's said, but you know what? Give it a shot. Try. These two landing at Grim Gables. Most of you guys will know this is Shifty. And instead of landing at the center spot, they're going to go and hit the mountain, grab all the goodies inside, and then look to steal some corn. Get some of these outdoor areas and things like that. It's interesting to see these two. Obviously, they're not walking away super stacked out of that area, so not really what you want to be doing. They're hitting the corn maze too. But when you're conned here, I don't like fighting here. One, because of the corn makes it so weird. Now we have this other player coming in, so this is going to be a strange fight. And this is just going to pretty much stall out. Both teams going to be spending more than they would like to. Now we see they quickly go into the house. This is a smart play. Turn this fight into a box fight instead of actually looking to fight this out in the open and potentially get third party. You just go into the house. That way you can hit the refarm. It's always a great idea when you get into an engagement to be able to get to a house or some spot where you can refarm a ton, because typically the team sitting on top of you isn't going to be able to refarm as much. But nonetheless, these two just going to disengage, get on out of here, because realistically with their loadout, this is not where you want to be. You're holding shield bubs. That's kind of the telltale sign to me that we ain't in the best of spots. These guys, though, they're looking pretty good. I'm not worried about this team. They'll be able to figure it out. And they are a team, so Trulex traditionally played with Queasy. They were one of the top duos at the time, so historically we've seen some success. Chico is kind of that newer player on his way up and performing very well. So interesting to see how these guys perform at the Invitational. As one of the duos coming out of Europe, I mean, they're all strong. And I hate saying it, but you know, they're definitely top region. It hurts my NA East insides to say Europe's on top, but it's nothing but true at the moment. They are currently the best region as far as gameplay goes, but that could change. I mean, we'll see. I had a comment on one of my videos, who do I think outside of like Europe, NA East, and then I think the other were like Snacky and Epic Whales team. So two teams out of NA West who I think can do well. And basically my reply to that was, out of the teams I watched, Muzz and Looter, which is kind of cheating because they are somewhat an NA East team. Runa and Peepo Clip out of Asia. And then the other team is, who was it? Quitos and Magazine out of Brazil. So those are like, so far, the three best teams I've seen out of the smaller regions. Now we see they sneak up to a fight here. And looks like we're going to stall out once again. I mean, this is a lot of these fights here in the Elite Cup. If neither team gets big damage, neither team is really looking to just fully engage in one of these fights. It's just not worth it. Like, all these players are so good to jump on one of these fights and essentially take a 50-50, because you have no idea who this is, right? This could be any number of players in the Elite Cup, and when you run into them, you run into problems, and the last thing you want to have to do is try and reboot a player in one of these lobbies, because it's really difficult. So we'll see them. They're just going to go down. I thought they were going to go down, hit a refarm, but now they're going to hit a refarm over here. They need to get their metal. They actually need basically everything. Thank you, game. Again, kind of just stalking this team. So this is like a surge plan. Just continuing to follow this team. Ooh, that guy got lazed. Because you weren't able to get in one of those like strong high ground mountain positions, what you have to do is just back and forth with this team, which is what they're doing right now. It is what it is. And we see they were able to get some metal, not enough to cap out. But they have that brick. The brick is super easy to farm at the moment. You can get so much brick in a heartbeat. And they're going both pads and also the evochromes. Or not evochromes, just the chromes. So these guys waiting here on edge. Now going to look to get ahead. Zone's pulling. So this is almost a max pull. Grim Gables all the way down to Greasy Corner. This is a tough rotate, but we saw them go along the edge here. There's a number of teams that followed in a similar path. Smart play. Hit a med kit. Then use the chromes. Continue to move. And I want to recognize, you see how they saw this team up in front of them here? Instead of trying to just force their way and spend a bunch of mats, all they're going to do is hug this mountain, cut off line of sight, and then rotate in here. They will wind up running into this team. So they're going to have to. But you see Trulex keeps turning around looking. He's waiting for a moment to be able to get past. Doesn't find that moment, right? So he's going to wind up taking damage, having to build this. And this is a very expensive rotate. This is not what you wanted to do, but because there was another team down there on low ground right in their way, they had to do this. And then we see they're just going to get to edge here on third and likely going to have to make another long rotate here for fourth. So ideally, not the best couple of zone rotates, and this all starts by getting scuffed off spawn. So having that long engagement off spawn and then having that stalemate later on leads you not to be able to make the rotates. The stalemate right outside of Rave Cave, in case you guys didn't know what I was talking about. But that leads you then to be behind on your rotates, especially when you have to go all the way across the map like we talked about, from Grim Gables all the way down past Greasy. Not what you want to do. As well as trying to get surged during that entire period. And it leads you to these scuff positions where you got 100 builds, not the best loot, and you're forced to try and make a play here. One thing they do have is AR ammo, so we see them just going for that. But with all their movement, the two pads, the chromes, they should be able to make these rotates without spending too much. Now again, teammate gets shot, give it a second, and then go again. You see they move as soon as this other team moves. So one, this team's not going to hold them. Two, they're going to be able to avoid potentially getting shot. Trulex knows they need a refresh, so he goes for a big shot there. Typically, I'm going to tell you not to do that. But in the position this team's in, they need this. Are able to get the cleanup here, and this is massive. This is why they're able to have a good game here. So they get themselves in zone. They even have some extra mats there. Gonna go back, get that refarm. And that is as good of a refresh as you can ask. We see funneling everything in to their builds. You don't want it to be in somebody else's because you never know. Now they're chilling. 400 extra metal, as you can see. These guys just simply need to wait for fifth. Now that they have all that extra loot, there's nothing much they really need to do. 2 extra pads. I mean, this is a prime play here. Putting themselves in as far as they can, but it's only going to be so far. But what helps here is instead of having to look from the position they were in earlier, so we see Trulex gets a little further ahead as opposed to trying to look out here. Blocks pretty much everyone over in this angle, so he gets to see the rotate a little bit more. It's a smart play to go ahead preemptively do that when you have extra mats. And now we have 2 extra launch pads, so I would imagine they're going to use those right here. If not, they're going to chrome and then drop the launch pads. That's what I would do, but I'm definitely just going launch pad here. We see. Boom, launch pad. Little low pad, get yourself on a nice high layer. And this is typically where you want to be in fifth, on like a medium to high layer. That way, one, you could use your own pad. They're right here. Or 2, you can recycle somebody else's. If you're down on the bottom shambles, you're not really going to have the opportunity to pad. But if your playstyle is more of the Evo Chromes, you could definitely play down there on the low ground. Smart play here by Trulex. Quickly chrome that, max out that HP, using the chromes as a defensive weapon. I like it. I like it a lot. Eventually gets the pressure off them, but they're not great on Surge, so we're going to have to look to make a play. Do enough there not to have to worry about it. It looks like Trulex is going to trade over the chromes for Chico. Boom, hit the pad. We see the rotates coming out. We'll slow this down to real time now. Yeah, not yet. And notice how these guys, one, go on the edge. So instead of going in the middle where like everyone's trying to land, they land a little further back and then go on this left side here. So that's going to help them be able to avoid this congestion. And they're typically not going to get landed on because they're not all the way ahead. Everyone's trying to get as far as they can with these launch pads. But these guys don't have to do that because they have chromes and launch pads. They can land midway through and just be a pain for a lot of teams. So we see they're going to use the chromes for the rest of the rotate. Chicho's going to wind up taking some damage there. And they're almost in. Now they're going to use the pad. So investing a lot in this first moving rotate. And then looking to play ultimate low ground. So once they've used their pads, they're no longer trying to play those mid-ground layers. Which I think is huge. Great recognition of where you need to play based on the play style. And I think that's one of the cool things about the chromes versus the pads, or both, if you're using both, is there is varying play styles here. So they pull, moving. It's going to be right to them. So they don't necessarily need to chrome right away. They build out a little bit of space, look for Operation Refresh. And then they'll wind up chroming here in a second to get themselves forward. As you can see, it gets a little shambles though. And these players need to be a little more focused on the same thing. Trulex does go and start to focus with Chico. They're able to grab a refresh because of that. Not massive. I think that was just 50 mats. We did miss some metal there. I hope Chico picked that up. And then Trulex is like, bro, we're down below this hill. We need to get up. Finds himself a better layer. And that's a great rotate. Recognize how shambles that layer was. Getting themselves up and out of that shamblesness. And then immediately chroming to make sure these builds are fully built and as healthy as they can be so they can have a moment to chill. They just made a chaotic rotate. Give yourself a second. That's a smart play there. Really like what I've seen out of these two. Very like planned, strategic. Seem to have a great idea of how they want to play. And again, they pull a moving zone. So now they're going to look to make a play. Belusi, big tag. Back when Queasy and Trulex played, they were like the high ground kings. So Trulex still definitely looks for height at times. And it looks like that's what they're going for right now. Actually, he was just looking at height to make sure he could rotate through. He gets through relatively unscathed. Chico takes the bulk of the damage. And then again, building that box. Immediately chroming it. He's the first player I've seen consistently doing this. I've seen it used once or twice, but not as regularly as I have from Trulex. That's some top tier Fortnite. And now this is where you don't really have much left. You got to try and make a play here. Your second height, so you're going to continue to get punished for being there. And you're going to have to look to make a play to get lower. There's only so many builds. They got like 1.5 boxes left. Now the drop down comes, trying to get to ulti low here. Able to get just enough space to play off of. And as soon as that happens, Chico is going to get a refresh, so that's huge. Able to build himself some space. But they're being contested here. You see Buzz is trying to cut them off. And they're just looking for somewhere to play from. And then Trulex eventually says, this layer's too shambles. Let's go back up. But they've done this at, coincidentally, the time where it looks like High Ground's looking to make a play. So if they realize that, they could go make a play. Hydro's literally just going on top of them. He's like, I got nothing, guys. Chico goes backside. Trulex fighting front side. Seeing Belusi. This is just the last desperate play by everyone with no mats. Sometimes it just happens this way when nobody has anything. We see Trulex able to withstand just for a little bit using that mantle. Chico did some good damage onto the opponents, but not going to be enough. Trulex is now just trying to delay this to get second. Stay alive as long as he can. He finds the solo just before he goes down. My goodness. But that's a big play. Able to identify the solo. Don't know if he 100% knew it was a solo. Nonetheless, great play there. Really enjoyed that VOD. Really liked watching those guys. Nonetheless, thank you guys. Appreciate you watching. See you next time. Peace.